It's 2 a.m. A 30-year-old man is lying in bed, his face lit by the glow of his phone screen, his thumb repeating the same mechanical motion. Scroll, scroll, scroll. He says he's tired, but he can't put the device down. He laughs at short videos. When he closes the app, he feels a strange emptiness, then opens it again. 3,000 years ago, at this same symbolic hour of the night, Solomon would wake with a different weight on his chest. How to govern an entire people well. How to build something that would outlast him. How to honor a responsibility that could not be outsourced or postponed. Today, according to global data, men between the ages of 25 and 45 spend more than 3 hours a day on social media. Over the course of a year, that adds up to 45 full days staring at a screen. In 5 years, nearly 8 months of life consumed by content that disappears in 24 hours. And that raises a simple and uncomfortable question. When was the last time you built something that would last longer than a single day? This isn't a moralistic comparison between past and present. It's a diagnosis. There is a silent battle for the modern male soul, fought every day inside your pocket, on your phone, inside the algorithm that decides what you'll see next. On one side, the archetype of the builder king, Solomon, the man who thinks in terms of legacy, accepts the weight of responsibility, and understands that pleasure without purpose weakens. On the other, the archetype of the seductive algorithm, embodied by Mark Zuckerberg, systems designed to capture attention, deliver instant gratification, and indefinitely delay maturity. The conflict isn't technological, it's existential. Never before has there been so much access to information, and never before so many confused men postponing decisions, avoiding commitments, living like grown boys, biologically adult, psychologically dependent, spiritually scattered. This video is not against social media, it's against the life wasted on it. Here, you'll find a clear and honest map for the transition no one taught you. Leaving comfortable passivity behind, regaining focus, discipline and responsibility, and moving from constant entertainment to a purpose that actually sustains life. The question isn't whether you use technology. The question is it serving your temple, or have you become just another brick in someone else's empire? If this resonated with you, don't just scroll past it like another video. Subscribe to the channel to continue this journey of focus, discipline, and real building. Like this video, so it reaches other men who are also trapped in the noise. Comment below. What is stealing most of your attention today? There have never been so many adult men living as if they're still waiting for life to begin. They work, pay bills, consume entertainment, but avoid deep responsibilities. They don't put down roots. They don't carry weight. They don't see themselves as pillars of anything. This phenomenon didn't come out of nowhere, and it has been described under different names by serious thinkers over the past several decades. In 12 Rules for Life, Jordan Peterson states that masculine maturity begins when a man voluntarily accepts the weight of responsibility, not when he feels motivated, not when everything is comfortable, but when he understands that avoiding the weight weakens him more than carrying it. Constantly refusing responsibility breeds resentment, infantilizes the man, and corrodes masculine self-esteem. Robert Bly in Iron John points to an even deeper cause: the absence of rites of passage. In traditional societies, the boy was symbolically separated from childhood and guided, often through pain, silence, and discipline, into adult identity. Today, that transition has been replaced by consumption, constant distraction, and a prolonged adolescence that requires neither rupture nor commitment. The result is a biologically mature adult who is emotionally dependent. He seeks constant approval, avoids difficult conflicts, and confuses freedom with the absence of commitment. He doesn't want to be controlled, but he also doesn't want to govern anything, not even his own life. He wants rights without duties, pleasure without sacrifice, a voice without responsibility. The data confirms this trend. Warren Farrell in The Boy Crisis presents clear numbers: a sharp rise in men living with their parents, delayed marriage, declining educational performance, and increased anxiety, depression, and feelings of uselessness. Not because of intellectual or physical incapacity, but because of a lack of direction and real demands. The grown boy is not weak by nature. He is disoriented, and today's culture does not call him to maturity. It rocks him, distracts him, and keeps him too comfortable to grow. If the grown boy is the symptom, attention capture is the mechanism. The most contested currency of the 21st century is not money or status, it's focus. Whoever controls a man's attention controls his energy, his choices, and ultimately his destiny. In Deep Work, Cal Newport shows how the capacity for deep focus, essential to creating anything meaningful, is being systematically destroyed, not by accident, by design. Digital environments are built to prevent silence, continuity, and sustained effort. Digital products are not neutral. They are designed to interrupt, fragment, and addict. In Hooked, Nir Eyal precisely describes the cycle: trigger, action, variable reward, and investment. It's the same psychological principle behind slot machines applied to the phone in the modern man's pocket. This model has been taken to the extreme by major social platforms. Every notification, every infinite scroll, every like was engineered to keep the user busy, not productive, stimulated but unfulfilled, engaged but empty. Time that could be used to build skills, relationships, or projects dissolves into fragments without memory. Johann Hari, in Stolen Focus, calls this a systematic theft of attention. It's not an individual moral failure, it's an environment hostile to depth. The invisible cost shows up slowly: unread books, neglected bodies, abandoned projects, shallow conversations, dreams endlessly postponed. The paradox is brutal. The man feels constantly busy, constantly tired, constantly out of time, but when he looks back, he realizes he built nothing proportional to the emotional effort he spent. A lot of movement, very little progress, a lot of noise, very little work. Empires are not built in 5-minute windows between notifications. When focus and responsibility disappear, something deeper takes root: emptiness. Not a dramatic emptiness, but a quiet, persistent existential fatigue that's hard to explain. A sense of always being late to your own life. Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning was direct. Man is not destroyed by suffering, but by the absence of meaning. When there is no why, any how becomes too heavy. Work feels more exhausting. Relationships demand too much. Discipline seems pointless. Modern culture tries to fill this void with constant entertainment. Small goals replace deep purpose. Likes replace real recognition. Digital avatars replace concrete identity. The man exists more as a spectator than as the author of his own story. Simon Sinek, in Start With Why, explains that strong people and organizations are structured around meaning, not convenience. The problem is that few men today can honestly answer why they do what they do or where they're going. David Dider, in The Way of the Superior Man, argues that a man needs a clear mission to organize his energy. Without it, he disperses, not out of malice, but from a lack of an internal axis. Social media offers a virtual purpose: commenting, reacting, opining, consuming. It's a cheap simulation of meaning. For a few hours, the emptiness goes quiet. Then it returns, larger, demanding more stimulation. The diagnosis is simple and harsh. The modern man isn't too tired. He's misdirected. He doesn't need more distraction. He needs a calling. And that's exactly what the model of Solomon begins to offer. The modern man's first mistake is confusing information with wisdom. He consumes data, opinions, videos, and quotes every day, but rarely turns that into better decisions. Information fills the mind. Wisdom directs life. Solomon understood this difference from the beginning. When given the chance to ask for anything, Solomon didn't ask for wealth, power, or long life. He asked for discernment. In 1 Kings 3:9, he asks for an understanding heart to govern. That reveals maturity, knowing that bad decisions cost more than temporary ignorance. Proverbs makes it clear that wisdom isn't theoretical. It shows up in daily choices, control of the tongue, time management, and self-mastery. Wisdom is applied under pressure, not quoted in conversation. It's practical, concrete, and often silent. Modern authors reinforce this. Ryan Holiday, translating Stoicism for today's world, shows that wisdom is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. Nassim Taleb, in Anti-Fragile, explains that real wisdom is born from exposure to reality, error, and consequence, not from comfortable theories. In the age of Instagram, men are rewarded for quick opinions, not deep reflection. Wisdom demands the opposite: silence before speaking, pause before reacting, experience before conclusion. Developing discernment today requires rigorous curation of what you consume. Whoever consumes everything understands nothing. Whoever chooses well governs his own life better. Wisdom without discipline becomes a pretty intention. Discipline is the muscle that turns values into repeated action. Solomon didn't build his legacy through bursts of motivation. He built it through consistency. The construction of the temple took 7 years of continuous work, as described in 1 Kings 6. There's no record of daily inspiration, only planning, persistence, and execution. This dismantles a dangerous modern myth. That action is only worthwhile when you feel motivated. Jocko Willink sums it up with brutal honesty. Discipline is freedom, not because it's pleasant, but because it frees you from slavery to mood. James Clear, in Atomic Habits, shows that consistent men don't rely on heroic willpower, but on simple systems repeated daily. Discipline doesn't start big, it starts small. Keeping a schedule, training even when you don't feel like it, finishing a task without distraction. Each act reinforces the identity of someone who is reliable to himself. David Goggins represents the extreme of mental toughness, but his core lesson is clear. A man grows when he does what he would rather avoid. Discipline doesn't eliminate suffering, it gives it meaning. Men who avoid discomfort become fragile. Men who choose the hard path build self-respect. The practice is simple and powerful. Do one hard thing every day deliberately, not to post it, to strengthen your character. Responsibility is not an imposed burden. It's a transforming choice. Solomon understood that to lead is to decide when no one wants to decide. One of the most famous episodes of his reign is the judgment of the 2 women disputing a child's maternity, told in 1 Kings 3:16-28. There, Solomon doesn't seek approval. He accepts the risk of being wrong. He decides. That's responsibility, accepting consequences before knowing the outcome. It's the opposite of the modern mindset of outsourcing blame. Jordan Peterson insists on this point. Voluntarily assuming responsibility strengthens a man because it organizes the chaos around him. Stephen Covey, in The 7 Habits, calls this proactivity, responding to life instead of reacting to it. Jocko Willink takes this to the extreme with the concept of extreme ownership. Everything that happens under your leadership is your responsibility, even when it wasn't your direct fault. This posture eliminates victimhood, which today is digitally amplified. Modern culture teaches men to blame algorithms, the system, childhood, government, or luck. The model of Solomon teaches the opposite. The responsibility is mine. That thought hurts at first, but later it liberates. Whoever assumes responsibility gains the power to act. The difference isn't who failed more, but who decides to act. Responsibility doesn't change the past, but it reorganizes the future. That's how a man stops reacting and starts leading his own life. The practice here is concrete. Take on a responsibility you've been avoiding. A difficult conversation, a postponed commitment, an uncorrected mistake. The weight makes you stronger. The final pillar that definitively separates men from grown boys: legacy. Solomon's temple stood for centuries, posts last hours, stories, minutes. That contrast says everything. Building is different from consuming. Building requires time, patience, and renunciation. Consuming offers immediate pleasure with no apparent cost. But only one leaves real marks on the world. Stephen Covey teaches us to begin with the end in mind. Benjamin Hardy reinforces that identity is built intentionally over time. Ray Dalio shows that well-designed systems outlive individuals. Legacy isn't fame, it's lasting impact. It's what remains when you're not present. It's what your children learn by watching your actions, not your words. It's the reputation that keeps circulating when your name is no longer mentioned. Simple questions reveal a lot. What are you building that will outlive you? What would someone learn just by observing your routine? If your life ended today, what would remain? Solomon failed in parts of the journey, but he left a clear model. Living only for yourself is too small. A man grows when he builds something that doesn't fit inside him alone. And that is exactly what calls him to the next stage. No reconstruction begins without rupture. The first true act of courage for the modern man is not to do more, produce more, or expose himself more. It is to stop feeding the system that keeps him scattered, to stop confusing stimulation with progress, to stop allowing his attention to be used against himself. Cal Newport, in Digital Minimalism, argues a simple and radical idea. Technology should serve clear values, not occupy them. The problem isn't the phone, it's unconscious use. Most men didn't choose how they used technology. They simply reacted to what was offered. A 30-day digital detox isn't a punishment. It's an experiment, a period to observe one's own behavior without constant anesthesia. In the first days, discomfort shows up. Anxiety, boredom, irritation. These symptoms aren't signs of weakness, they're signs of withdrawal. Silence reveals what noise was hiding. Catherine Price, in How to Break Up with Your Phone, says the most common mistake is trying only to remove stimuli. The right path is to replace them. Where there was endless scrolling, there must be something concrete. Reading, writing, physical movement, real conversation. The brain needs direction, not emptiness. Creating friction is essential because human behavior rarely changes through isolated rational decisions. A man doesn't live in a controlled laboratory. He lives in environments that constantly push him towards certain behaviors. When apps are one tap away, when notifications invade every moment of silence, and when everything is designed to be fast, colorful, and rewarding, demanding constant self-control is demanding the impossible. This isn't a lack of character, it's behavioral architecture. Deleting apps isn't extremism. It's clarity. Turning off notifications isn't escape, it's sovereignty. Using less attractive web versions isn't regression, it's strategy. These actions don't work because they increase willpower, but because they reduce cognitive friction for what matters and increase friction for what distracts. The brain follows easy paths. It always has. Those who understand this stop fighting themselves and start designing their environment. The idea that a strong man should resist any stimulus is a dangerous modern fantasy. No man defeats alone a system designed by entire teams of behavioral psychologists, engineers, and attention specialists. The man who relies only on self-control has already lost before he begins, not because he's weak, but because he's playing the wrong game. In the long run, environment always beats individual force. The men who build something lasting aren't the most disciplined in the romantic sense. They're the ones who created environments where discipline becomes the natural path. That's why environmental engineering is applied maturity. It's deciding where the phone sleeps. It's choosing specific times to access social networks. It's turning technology use into something deliberate, not automatic. Every layer of friction returns a bit of freedom. Every artificial obstacle between you and distraction is, in fact, a silent ally. The initial discomfort that follows these changes often scares people. Too much silence, too much time, too many thoughts. Many interpret this as a sign that something is wrong. In reality, it's the opposite. Discomfort is the symptom that the anesthetic has been removed. It's growth happening in real time. In the first days, attention feels unstable. The mind tries to escape. The body asks for stimulation, but slowly, something shifts. Time begins to stretch. An hour starts to feel like an hour again, not an interval that disappears. The mind begins to organize thoughts that were buried under constant stimulation. Old ideas return. Uncomfortable questions surface. This isn't regression, it's internal reorganization. Gradually, a man realizes something fundamental. He doesn't have to respond to everything. He doesn't have to consume everything. He doesn't have to react to every impulse. Attention, when it isn't hijacked, becomes a powerful tool again. With it, decisions grow clearer. Work gains depth. Conversations become more present. Fatigue changes its nature. It stops being scattered and becomes productive. The first real step on the way back isn't productivity, discipline, or visible success. It's reclaiming the basic right to choose where to place one's focus. Without that, any change is fragile. With it, a man stops being pushed by the current and starts rowing again. Not in a rush, but with direction. Eliminating distractions isn't enough. The space created must be filled with identity. For decades, masculinity has been attacked, caricatured, or reduced to extremes, either too aggressive or too weak. The result has been confusion. Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette in King, Warrior, Magician, Lover offer a powerful map. They describe mature masculine archetypes and their immature shadows. The problem isn't the archetype, it's living trapped in the shadow. The mature king governs with order and justice. His shadow is the tyrant or the absent ruler. The warrior protects and acts with discipline. His shadow is blind violence or cowardice. The magician seeks knowledge and clarity. His shadow is manipulation or isolation. The lover connects and feels. His shadow is addiction and emotional dependence. Healthy masculinity integrates these aspects. It doesn't deny sensitivity, but it doesn't abandon strength. It doesn't run from pain, but it isn't defined by it. Brené Brown reminds us that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's emotional courage. Terry Real in I Don't Want to Talk About It shows the cost of male emotional silence. Rebuilding identity requires the right mirrors. Mentorship, therapy, and healthy male communities aren't signs of failure. They're signs of commitment. A man wasn't meant to grow alone. Isolation prolongs immaturity. The path isn't to become another man, it's to become whole. Real change doesn't come from creating a new persona, but from integrating what was fragmented. Strength without sensitivity hardens. Sensitivity without structure weakens. Discipline without purpose imprisons. Purpose without discipline deceives. Becoming whole requires quiet courage, facing repressed emotions, aligning body, mind, and values, and taking responsibility without blaming the world. When there is wholeness, actions stop competing, choices gain coherence, and presence speaks louder than any performance. Every manifesto needs clear commitments, not vague ideas, but practical decisions. The first commitment is to truth. Inspired by Jordan Peterson, this means stopping lying, starting with yourself, admitting limits, mistakes, and real desires. Lies fragment identity. Truth integrates it. The second commitment is to the body. David Goggins and Peter Attia reinforce that physical health isn't about aesthetics. It's the foundation. A neglected body compromises mental clarity, discipline, and emotional presence. Caring for the body is a duty, not vanity. The third commitment is to the mind. Protecting blocks of deep focus, as Cal Newport teaches, is protecting your ability to create value. Without focus, there is no work. Without work, there is no sustained dignity. The fourth commitment is to real relationships. David Dida and John Gottman show that presence matters more than performance. Being whole in a conversation is worth more than impressing from a distance. The fifth commitment is to meaningful work, craft over convenience. Simon Sinek reminds us that purpose sustains prolonged effort. Work that's too easy corrodes the spirit. The sixth commitment is to community. Robert Putnam shows that strong societies are built on bonds, not individual consumption. Contributing restores meaning. The seventh commitment is spiritual. Viktor Frankl and Dallas Willard argue for connection to something greater than the ego. Without transcendence, a man goes in circles. Transformation without a plan turns into fleeting enthusiasm. 90 days create enough traction for real change. In the first 30 days, the focus is detox and observation, reducing stimuli, recording impulses, identifying patterns. Don't fix everything, just see clearly. From days 31 to 60, implementation begins. Introduce simple habits, fixed schedules, regular training, daily reading, focus blocks. The goal isn't perfection, it's minimal consistency. From days 61 to 90 comes consolidation. Adjust what didn't work, reinforce what did, create concrete metrics, hours of focus, training sessions, meaningful conversations, progress on projects. The plan doesn't promise comfort, it promises direction, and direction changes everything. The manifesto doesn't demand that a man be perfect. It demands that he be responsible. It doesn't ask for heroism, it asks for daily commitment. The way back isn't fast or easy, but it's real. And it begins when a man decides to stop watching his own life and start building it again, one day at a time. The choice doesn't happen once. It happens every day, in small, almost invisible gestures. No one wakes up fully formed. No one loses everything all at once. Life is built or wasted through repeated decisions, usually when no one is watching. Solomon wasn't a perfect hero. He built the temple, governed with wisdom, and wrote proverbs that crossed centuries. But he also failed. His political alliances turned into excess. His emotional choices became spiritual dispersion. The biblical account doesn't hide this, because real maturity isn't constant purity. It's continuous responsibility, even after the fall. The problem isn't making mistakes. It's not choosing. It's endlessly postponing what requires effort. It's numbing discomfort with distraction. 5 years seems like a long time, but it passes quickly. In 5 years, continuing to live in reaction will produce the same exhaustion, only deeper. The body will be slower, the mind more fragmented, relationships more fragile. Regret weighs more than any daily discipline. Now imagine another scenario. 5 years of small choices made with intention, schedules respected, attention protected, work built with depth, real presence with those who matter. The result isn't a perfect life, but a livable one, a life that can sustain the person living it. The battle between Solomon and Mark Zuckerberg doesn't happen in ancient books or Silicon Valley offices. It happens every time the phone vibrates, every time a man decides whether to react or to choose, every time he opts to consume more or to build something, even if small. What is your temple? Not as a pretty metaphor, but as concrete reality. What are you building that will remain when the day ends? What would your children, friends, or colleagues learn just by watching your routine? Where are you placing the best of your energy? No one is coming to rescue your attention. No algorithm will be gentle with your time. This responsibility can't be outsourced. But it doesn't need to be heroic. It just needs to be daily, one adjustment at a time, one well-timed no, one yes carried through to the end. The final call isn't for you to become extraordinary. It's for you to stop being a spectator in your own life. Start today, not in a rush, but with firmness, not waiting to feel like it, but deciding to act. The path exists. It's ancient, demanding, and possible. Welcome back. This return doesn't require isolation or denial of the world. It requires discernment, clear limits, patience with your own process. There will be off days, relapses, distractions. The commitment isn't perfection. It's conscious return. Every time you choose again, the axis strengthens. Maturity grows this way, through repetition, not explosion. If today you simply organize the next hour, that counts. If tomorrow you protect an entire morning, even better. The temple begins small, but it grows with constant care. That's how simple choices, sustained over time, become a visible, silent, and inevitable legacy for everyone around you.